All right, we are back. I haven't filmed a podcast in God knows how long. Thank you, Jason and Ryan, for hanging out today. And most biggest thank you to Raquel Benitah.
Hey.
Thank you so much for coming, Raquel. I know like this all happened pretty quick. I know we had some setbacks on our side to get you here, but thank you for eventually making it and coming with gifts, which we will get to later. Schedule 35 microdose psilocybe cubensis. Don't know what that means. And 50 milligrams shrooms pills. Super excited to pop all of those later and trip out in front of you guys. Just kidding. Rack body acceptance. That is what it says on your TikTok. That is what it says on your Instagram. Tell me a little bit about what that means to start off.
I was going to say, great reading out my handle. Mm-hmm. You did your homework.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's all the homework I did. So please.
Looked up my name. Hi, I'm Rack. And I feel like we know each other just through my brother. But so I'm a 23-year-old holistic nutritionist and content creator. Like you said, body acceptance. So I started out my Instagram when I was in university, just going through the motions of being a student and trying to figure it out. And then during COVID, I switched it to body positivity / body acceptance when I was can I swear on this podcast?
Sure.
Stunning.
Fucking right, you can.
When I was fuck this about being fake and
right.
Hiding my body and not, being authentically me. So then I started doing body acceptance, and from there, now I'm here.
Well, I see Jason gave me some notes here with his beautiful notes. I love them. I see better sore, not sorry. Is that kind of where the Instagram page started?
That's where it started.
Okay.
Better sore than sorry.
So was that more of a fitness page?
Yeah, that was me. When I was so backstory, I was always a heavy kid. For people who are listening to this, I'm sure you already knew me, but when I got to university or grade 12, actually, I lost a bunch of weight and was super into fitness and health. So I made an Instagram account with my friend called Better Sore Than Sorry. And that was totally different than what I have now. And then that's when I switched it to what I have now, Raquel Benitah.
Right. So you talk about, in your words, quotation, you said you were a bit of a heavy kid. Mm-hmm. Is that were there some, issues growing up? And, because obviously I'm looking at your page now and it's the most positive page of all time. Mm-hmm. And, you're doing bikini try-ons and I'm seeing them every day on TikTok. And I would imagine, I don't know for sure, but I would imagine that, it took a while to get to that point of confidence. Because I know, listen, the mirror, as much as I look in the mirror, it's the worst invention of all time.
100%.
I'm in the mirror looking, oh my God, is my hair good for everybody to see? I haven't worked out in a couple days. I had McDonald's yesterday. How does that change my body? And it's the hardest thing in the world to deal with, because it's how many hours a day do you spend looking at yourself, judging yourself, right?
For sure.
I imagine there was a journey to get to where you are now. So if you can speak a little bit about that, that'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. So like you said, I mean, we all struggle regardless of your gender or your size. I don't know anybody who doesn't find food and their body an issue. So yeah, for me, as a kid, I grew up in a house where I was the heaviest of my siblings and I was the only girl. So I found that to be tough because my brothers were brothers. They would beat down on me and we would call each other names, and it was all in fun until I would go to my room and be emotional about it.
Right.
And I went to camp and I was the heaviest girl in my cabin, and I went to school and I was never looked at from the boys in a way that other girls were looked at. And so it obviously affected me as a girl growing up in this day and age. And so when I did end up losing weight for prom, that was my goal, because everyone has to look good at prom.
Right.
That was the pinnacle of what I thought would be happiness. And then when I realized that I was developing an eating disorder and everything was actually going worse than it was, I was you know what? I need to figure out my life and do what's good for me, and realize that happiness does not equate the way that you look, and your worth is not being thin or anything about that. So that's sort of what brought me to where I am now. So yeah, those bikini try-on hauls have backstory and history of
sure.
a lot of a lot of like bullying and sad things that I've like gone through, but I'm like also doing it for me, but also for like the inner child of Raquel who like would have loved to see somebody of my size like do that, and for like, you know, our future kids who like need to see a generation of people who like embrace their bodies and aren't like looking up to Kendall Jenner. You know, nothing's wrong with her, but like we've all looked up to people like that, and it's just like unrealistic, especially for women. So that's my goal.
And you've done a great job of doing
you.
it, and honestly, so inspirational. It's not inspirational of like what you're doing. It's more so just you doing what you want, the way that you want to do it, and that's kind of the way that I've always tried to run my life. Is I don't love the path traveled by everybody else. I don't love following, you know, in other people's footsteps that maybe is the easier path. I like kind of doing my own thing.
100%.
And, you know, sure, sometimes people will come up to me like, oh, I saw your Instagram story the other day. It was hilarious. And like, well, it wasn't supposed to be hilarious, you know, thanks for laughing at me. But it's, you know, kind of, I love to poke fun at myself and, you know, put myself out there. And if other people can have a good time while I'm doing it, then that's awesome. But it's cool because, I mean, these days, obviously, body positivity has taken huge steps in the world over the last 50 years, right? From, you know, models and whatever it might be. And there's been so many stories of, you know, you talked about eating disorders and, you know, mistreatment of models and women and all that stuff. Nowadays, the big thing is like money. Everybody wants to work the perfect job, make the money, have a side hustle, have all this money. And once you have the money, it'll make you happy. It's almost the same thing, right?
Sure.
It's like you think that, oh, once I get those 6-pack abs that you're never going to get, or at least I'm never going to get, you'll be happy. And then you look in the mirror and you find something else to be upset about, right? Like,
yeah, we are like so fucked in society, the way that we like yearn for external validation and like external happiness and like you said, money, or like the way your body looks or whatever you can like acquire materialistic goods. It's like so sad, I think, in our generation. I won't say like generally, because there's people like, I don't know, us, but and like a lot of people who are not like that, but just like the lack of like genuine happiness in like, you know, growing up or experiencing amazing things. Like, I don't know, it's tough. And it's like, we got to find ways to bring it back.
But that's why, you know, in part that you do what you do, because it's inspirational for everybody else to watch and hopefully say, I can do that too. No matter what, who I am, no matter what, you know, whether it's being bullied as a kid or whatever, and giving people the inspiration to do that. So again, a third round of applause to you.
Thanks.
I mean, this has turned you into an influencer. Like you've got thousands, I'd say, I think 12,000 Instagram followers, 16,000 TikTok followers. I did my homework.
You did.
And, you know, I see you doing some sponsored posts and working with different companies. Tell me a little bit about how that started.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, it's the same Instagram account from Better Story Than Story, but it sort of took off during COVID. I feel like a lot of people's stuff took off during COVID. It was when I, like, really started being me, which is funny because people are always like, how do you grow an Instagram page? Not that I have a big Instagram page, like when you look at other people, but I always say just like be authentic. And when I finally like took my own advice and started being authentic was when it actually like took off, and brands were like, we love how genuine you are. And I was like, me, like what you said, like people are like, oh, your Instagram stories are funny. I'm like, I'm genuine, like, you know, but people just see through like the bullshit of social. And so, yeah, I turned it into a business, I guess. It's like, I'm a nutritionist, as I said, but that's more of like a side hustle now.
Right.
And this is my full-time thing. So yeah, it's been fun to work with brands and like, I don't know, it's weird to say influencer, but
that's the dream, right? For everybody who's trying to grow a page, for everybody who's doing TikToks and whatever you're doing, the dream is to turn your main hustle into your side hustle.
Yeah.
That's what you've done, right? Yeah. So are you still like, you know, I don't know much about the industry, holistic nutrition. Like, do you have clients that you work with? Do you set up meal plans? Like, what exactly do you do?
Yeah, so I see clients and I work at a clinic. And like, I always want to have part of that. Like, no matter if it's like the most teeny side hustle, like the old me before Instagram and before TikTok was like, I love nutrition and I want to help people. And it like, they sort of go hand in hand because I want to help people with disordered eating and like body image. So yeah, I see clients on the side, but it's definitely, I mean, social media is making me more money. So we'll call that the main hustle.
That's fair. So, and then also what I've seen in some of your videos, like you talk a lot about talking with families, right? And the stigmas and, you know, because, it could be a family of 7 with one kid with an eating disorder, right? Like,
Yeah.
So can you go into that a little bit? Like,
Yeah, for sure. That's like a huge thing that I also want to do. So, like I said, I grew up in a family as the youngest girl with 2 brothers, and I don't think parents, if the parents never struggled with their own food or body image, it's really tough to like grasp what that kid is going through. And like parenting's hard enough, let alone when you have to deal with like multiple children in their own paths, because like regardless of you grow up in the same house, like every single child goes their own way. So I think it's important to teach parents, because they're like the foundation of a child's life, and they like teach their kid everything, how to talk to children and how to treat children, and like to not make them feel different. Because when I was a kid, and I always say this on my Instagram, like no hate to my parents, they were the best 2 parents in the whole world, but they did things and said things that obviously were meant to be positive, but I took very differently as like a 6-year-old child, you know? So yeah, I want to teach parents that like if you have an overweight child, or if you have a child struggling with addiction or whatever the outlier thing is that they're dealing with, like you can't treat them differently. You have to just like figure out ways and like find resources to help.
And that's, that's such it's always in sales, like it's always been so hard to sell to that demographic.
For sure.
Right? The older parents, the baby boomers, because they're stuck in their tradition, they're stuck in their ways a lot of the time. And it's really hard to change their minds. So a lot of times I can imagine that parents are like, it's fine, she'll be fine, he'll be fine. And they don't realize the impact of some of the things that they do.
For sure.
Changing them and, the people around them can have a huge influence on that kid. Right?
100%. My mom is like, I talk to my mom way more than my dad about this stuff, because he's like that.
Right.
He's very traditional, and my mom is very like modern and open to hearing anything and everything. And she's very like, not that she admits that she like was wrong, but she'll like say that's good to know, or like I'll change that, because I'm like, if I have children, you can't say X, Y, and Z, you know?
Right.
And then I'll talk to like other parents. Like we went for dinner, and my friend's mom was there, and she was like in denial. And I was like, there's no like blame here. We're all just trying to learn, you know? Like my mom always says, nobody gave us a manual to parenting, you know? But like to teach or to learn from your children, who were like the first hand people who you taught, is like important.
Right. Yeah. And that's so different from what the world is used to, learning from your kids. Right. Like it's, how many times have I heard from my dad, like, I'm not your friend, I'm your dad. You know what I mean? Like I heard that since I was little.
Like, I can't wait for you to fuck up your kids, you know? Like exactly. Wait till you have kids.
So, and it's, I could see like a future where, parents are hiring, and I don't know, maybe it already happens, hiring people like you to, not just work with the kid, but to work with the entire family. Like, does that happen? Is that things that people do? Yeah,
for sure. People do that. I mean, I think in like the past, people have hired like nutritionists to like teach them how to grocery shop, teach them how to like clean out their pantry. But like, I know people who like sit down with families and like have meetings and discuss like how to go from here.
That's more than a nutritionist. That's more than like a holistic. That's a therapist. It's, helping a family through an extremely difficult time,
for sure.
That this kid could go through for a long time.
Yeah.
So, again, it's unreal work. And it's, I mean, how good is it? Like, I'm a real estate agent, I sell houses. I'm not curing cancer, right?
Don't worry.
It feels nice to sell a house and to make a family happy, and they send me nice words. Oh, Brett, you're the best, like everybody says. And, but to do something that's so fulfilling like that, to actually be helping people and to know, like, I'm sure you get Instagrams messages, I'm sure, of people that you've helped. Like,
I get some nice ones.
Anything that stands out that you can tell us about, like a cool story?
I mean, not like one, but I mainly actually from parents. Like, I think kids younger than me or my age are like kind of embarrassed to like admit that I've helped them, or like I've gotten them to where they are. But parents will message me and they'll be like, oh, I have a daughter who like, you remind me of her, and I'm like trying to use that technique that you taught us on Instagram. And I'm like, that's huge. Like, for people to actually use what I'm saying, and like, I experienced it, so I'm like, use what I say, because maybe it'll help, So yeah, it's like, it's always great.
So how are those people reacting to all the psychedelic talk? Because that's what I'm seeing right now. One of the last episodes of the podcast was, and which we'll get into, was about psychedelics. I'm holding 2 different kinds of pills that I'm gonna pop. I'm gonna pop right now as you're talking. So tell us a little bit about how you got into that. and what the reaction
Try
is.
these
Which
ones.
one should I have? These ones?
Yeah.
How many should I take?
2.
Okay.
Or you could start with 1.
Okay.
I
Well,
took 2 today.
I'll take 2. I'm adventurous.
You'll be okay.
I've got nothing to do today. The market's slow. It's almost August. I'm going to sit on the couch and see what happens.
You'll be fine, don't worry. Okay, yeah, so I actually did not start with psychedelics. I started with just thinking that mushrooms were super cool. As a holistic nutritionist, it's all about like natural remedies and like finding ways to not use like, Western medicine and more so use like natural medicine. And so I started doing research about mushrooms.
Down the hatch.
And I actually found this company called Rainbow. You made a face like it tasted funky.
No, it's good. Delicious.
Okay, good. I thought they were tasteless.
Yeah.
I found this company, and I honestly bought it because it had cool packaging. I'm like all for marketing. I fall for it. And it's just like mushroom tinctures of like medicinal mushrooms. So if you didn't know, there's like 2 types. Well, 3 types of mushrooms. There's like, the mushrooms that you eat, like portobello mushrooms. Then there's like medicinal mushrooms like lion's mane and reishi. And then there's like psychedelic.
I hate mushrooms, like portobello mushrooms, whatever, shiitake mushrooms, all this. Like, I hate mushrooms. People who get mushrooms on their pizza, it's like blasphemy.
I'm
to
leaving.
Me.
I'm out. End the episode.
But I like mushrooms, obviously.
For fun.
But it sounds like you're super passionate about it.
I am.
Like,
I could talk about this for a whole episode.
Is there a future there? Like,
I hope.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, I got into psychedelics because I was like, do I really like mushrooms if I haven't tried the psychedelics? So I actually did I did one just for fun with my friends. And then I did like this mushroom ceremony. Sounds very woo-woo witchcrafty. It kind of is. But you just like take mushrooms in this room with like 25 people and like have a trip, go to heaven. And it's fucking awesome.
it was great.
It was great.
So tell me about that. Like, how long is that? Is everybody tripping out?
Everyone's tripping out.
Everyone's freaking out like I am right now after 30 seconds after taking microdose pills?
No, so there's like, I'm not going to call him a shaman because that's like cultural appropriation apparently, but he's like a guide, we'll say.
Let's not do cultural appropriation on this show.
Not at all.
Let's just put that out there.
We don't do that.
No.
Edit that out. So he's like a guide, and he like offers you however much you want. You pay a fee. And you like have your own yoga mat and you like chill there, and it's just like he plays music and he sets the tone and like the entire mood, and you're there for 7 hours.
Wow.
Nobody's like tripping like that. Everyone's like very calm, but you can't talk and you can't touch each other, but you can like get up and walk around and dance to the music and like do whatever feels good. I would say majority of people are like lying down, just like living their life.
Well, like I'm watching this show on Netflix. I forget what it's called, but it's all about different psychedelics. Like the first episode's on LSD, the second episode's on psilocybin, which is mushrooms. And like this is a 60-year-old man who has never done psychedelics ever in his life, and it changed him as a person. It let him open up to who he really is and let all of his guards down and find out what his real issues were inside, and then be able to address those things.
For sure. That's sort of like what I want to do with like merging everything I do together. So like mushrooms can be like a huge way to like dive deep into like your inner child and like deal with childhood wound healing, and like that plays a huge role with like body image and shit that happened in your childhood. So
right.
That's how I might
getting rid of like the cultural norms and the standards that everybody has, and kind of go, because that's what people talk about. They talk about like going back to their child self, right? They talk about seeing a tree for the first time, seeing nature for the first time, and really appreciating the things that matter. Like I've never done any illegal drugs before ever, but I would imagine if I did do it a couple years ago, that you're thinking of the people that you love, your family, your friends. Like again, if this did happen, I would have been staring out at a field watching everybody throw a frisbee,
right? And
you're like, wow, this is what life should be. I should just be throwing fucking frisbee all day long. Like, who cares about work? But then, and I guess this is where the microdosing comes in, because when you're doing the real things, like I don't remember, but whatever. If I would remember, I would remember coming down pretty hard from it and being like, whoa, what just happened? I'm not going to move to Thailand like I just said I was an hour ago and quit my job. I have real life. I have real responsibilities. Like there has to be a balance there, right? Between oh, everything's beautiful in life,
Yeah.
and I don't need to worry about anything. And then coming home to 2 kids, a mortgage, and real world problems.
For
right?
sure. Yeah. I mean, this is kind of the issue with like psychedelics. It's like it takes you on this trip and sometimes you can like, have a really hard trip and like envision life how you want it to be sort of. I've done that too. I mean, if I would have done mushrooms one time at that ceremony. No, I'm just like, I want to live in this room forever. It's such like a warm, happy feeling. And
Right.
I want to like do all these things with my life, and money doesn't matter. And why do I feel like I have to make millions of dollars? Like that's going to be a grind, and like you go through all those things and then you leave and you're like, yeah, I want millions of dollars. You know
Right.
what I mean? But, yeah, so I microdose because it's a tiny dose of psilocybin, and it's more so just like for me, it's like a way to like focus and like have attention and also like take a little thing off,
How often are you microdosing right now?
So I used to do it once every 3 days. I do it like once a week now,
Right.
because I'm like, I only do it when I'm like trying to have like a really productive day. I'm not just going to do it if I'm like sitting on the couch.
Right.
But I think there's like a rule of thumb, which is like once every 3 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so as you see, like I'm very open. I'm open to this stuff. I'm all, if you brought anything else, I probably would have tried it as well. But I am playing devil's advocate. One might think, okay, it's not our natural state. If you're taking it once every 3 days, damn, that's like a large portion of the week. That's
Right.
a large portion of the month, a large portion of your life. What do you say to some people who might say that that's not our natural state, that's not how we're supposed to be living, like, and that's how, don't do drugs and like
Yeah.
drink alcohol and all that stuff that makes you feel a certain type of way? Like, what's your response to that?
I mean, I'm all for like natural state of being. Like I don't drink often. I don't do drugs often. Like I'm all for that. And once every 3 days does not mean forever. Like take breaks. I don't do it sometimes for a month. But also like if you're somebody who's saying that and you take like medication, like ADD medication or birth control or things like that, like that's not a natural state of being either.
Right.
So I think it's like,
And this is way more natural, way more good for you than a lot of those things with the side effects that, you could write a book about.
right.
Right.
I went into this with a doctor, and he was like, you don't know that can give you brain cancer down the line. There's not enough research on mushrooms. And I'm like, well, so can a lot of things. So I choose this because I make that decision for myself, and I
Right.
don't take, whatever other meds doctors prescribe for me personally. And yeah, you make your own decisions in life.
Yeah, no, for sure. And also, if it makes you happy, like that's what else matters, really. What else matters than if your state of mind is happy? And it's, there's a lot of people who are dealing with anxiety out there. There's a lot of people who are dealing with, depression, which is, I mean, how often do you hear the word depression in today's society? All the time. And a lot of people are going through it at different levels, right? So if you can take something or do something or experience something that makes you feel a little bit better a few more days of the week, then why the fuck not?
Exactly.
Right? Awesome.
For sure.
Amazing. So when are we getting rack shrooms?
Mushrooms.
When are we getting rack shrooms? When are you, because like I told you before, I've got a whole Benitah day planned.
You do.
We've got the podcast. I'm going for dinner with Max tonight, and I'm gonna get on that train. I'm gonna invest in this rack shrooms, Papa's herb
Situation.
collab.
Okay, well, I don't know yet if I'm going to make a mushroom company, but when I do, I'll let you know.
Amazing.
You'll be the first to know.
I'll be the first to try.
Sure.
Done
That too.
deal. So, I mean, we're talking about psychedelics. We're talking about holistic nutrition. Is this something that you like? Do you have a plan? Like, some people sit down and they like to have a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a 15-year plan. It seems like you've got so much going on and so much awesome stuff going on. Like, do you have a business model? Like, where do you see this thing in 10 years?
Am I the only one who gets anxious when people say, "What's your 5-year plan?"
Honestly, I hate being asked that question,
Right?
because I don't have one. I'm like, well, whatever I do in 5 years is what I'll do in 5 years. But it's a podcast. I have to ask questions like this.
I'm like, am I in a job interview?
So do your best.
Okay.
And if the answer is no, then the answer is no.
Okay, well, I kind of do. Even though like social media is just like rolling and you never know what tomorrow brings. ideally, which is what I've stuck to my gun since I was like 5 years ago, I want to open up a clinic, like a multidisciplinary clinic in Toronto that has like all types of clinicians, and that brings into like fruition everything that I do. So like, you know, therapy and holistic nutrition and body acceptance counseling, and then, you know, like a little smoothie bar and maybe some mushroom supplementing and things like that. I think we like lack that in Toronto, and those things are like in New York and LA, and they're so cool and they're very like hip and happening, and I would love to have one of those, and like a place for young kids to come and feel welcome without their parents, where like they're not going to see a therapist and they're not going to see a dietitian, and like, you know, like a cool airy place where they can like solve their problems and also like be cool.
Right. Are there a lot of places to like for you to learn about all this stuff? Like, I feel like it's such a new idea. You know, when you're a doctor, you can talk to doctors who have been a doctor for the last 100 years, and you know, you can read 1,000 years of books on medicine and all this stuff. Like, is there like a go-to either person or influencer or you know, someone that you listen to for like, you know, for you to learn all this stuff?
I mean, there's like bean people who have opened clinics, and like there's like a large clinic in Toronto, but that's like just for Western medicine. So I feel like I would have to like gather my troops and like have a meeting. I couldn't just go to one person, but I think I could definitely find the resources for that, and also like do research elsewhere, like not in Toronto, obviously. I think it would be cool.
Yeah, like these people, like you're saying, you could meet somebody in LA or whatever. Like, are there actual other influencers that you look up to?
Oh yeah, influencers for sure, but for this kind of stuff, I don't know. I got to look up to business people.
Well, I mean, influencer, that's like influencer / holistic nutrition.
Yeah.
I feel like there's like a, you know, you see a decent amount of them on TikTok, on Instagram, but it's like no one's doing like the whole thing and putting everything together. So I'm excited to see that. Anything else going on right now? Any big things? Any big announcements on TikTok that I haven't seen? Or is it just lots of shrooms and...
You know, nothing too big, just the shrooms. But tell me a little bit about you. How did you get into real estate and everything that you're doing? Because I feel like you went from like zero to just like cool podcast, fun, marketing, selling houses.
I mean, the whole thing is, and I'm sure it's a lot with you as well, it's like you just want to put yourself out there as much as possible. So the podcast was like a cool way to have cool people on, have cool conversations, educate people maybe on certain things that, you know, people like yourself are way smarter than me and I couldn't do myself. And then once you start doing that and you start putting out all this content, it's like everyone thinks that like you're the content master. Like people will come up to me like, man, I love you on TikTok. It's like I haven't posted a TikTok in 6 months.
Right.
But listen, it was a journey. I worked multiple different jobs. I was a college dropout. You know, went into the insurance industry. That wasn't for me. I was at one point selling charity on the street, you know, holding an iPad saying save the children. And, you know, I started making cold calls and slowly realized that this was something that I could do, and working with people and making people happy and helping people with one of the biggest purchases of their lives. And then it just kind of took off from there. And, you know, I think this can be said about any industry and any job, you know, relating to you as well. If you just do good work, you're a good person, you have other people's interests, you know, at heart, and you care about them, and good things will happen, right? Sure. If people don't have bad things, I'm sure some people have bad things to say about me, but if too many people don't, then that's a good thing, right? If people are talking good things about you, then, you know, that's it. You can just keep snowballing.
Words to live by.
Yes.
Well, you're killing it. That's
thank you so much.
TikTok.
Yes.
Crucial.
I'll get back on the TikTok. We'll do some TikToks together. We'll do some shrooms and TikToks. Next time we'll do 4 pills.
Oh, God.
So I can really get spacey. I'm not feeling anything yet. Or maybe I am. But I'm sure it'll be an interesting day, a happy day. What do these things make you feel? Just like chill?
Just like lighter.
Just lighter.
You feel good.
Chill, lighter.
No, fully fine though.
Okay.
I trust you.
Do
I seem normal?
I know who to go after if I absolutely trip out and ruin my house. Raquel, Miss Benitah, Queen of Body Positivity. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm sure we could talk about psychedelics forever, but I've probably lost 1,200 Instagram followers already. Yeah, thank you. And I look forward to the rack shrooms. And I think that should be the name.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
This is great.
And I don't think I announced the name of the podcast. If you guys forgot it, it's Down to the Studs, and we are down with Raquel Benitah. Thank you so much again, and we'll see you next time.
We will.
Awesome.